Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today we're going to be talking about the Heartland Stalwarts. So what are the Heartland Stalwarts? Well, first of all, Heartland Stalwart is a term that I am coining specifically for the use of political commentating. And the reason why we need it is the term coastal elite. The coastal Heartland Stalwarts are the counterpart to the coastal elite. So let's talk about these two groups, okay? So first, let's define coastal elite, because Heartland Stalwart truly is its counterpart, okay? So what is a coastal elite? This has been used a lot. I actually think it's a really good term. It's really helpful, it's really useful, and we really need this term. And the reason why is coastal elites have a huge amount of power when it comes to the U.S. presidential election, right? So who are the coastal elites? All right, coastal elite. Now, by the way, I'm going to describe the coastal elites. There's exceptions at the top 20%. There's exceptions at the bottom 20%. I'm talking the macro level, that middle 60, right, where you boil off all the little exceptions here and there, and we're talking about a group of people at the macro level, right? I understand there are exceptions, but I'm talking about the macro level, all right? Okay, so what are the coastal elites at the macro level? Well, first of all, they are three things. The coastal elite at the macro level are three things. They are degreed, okay? They have one or more college degrees or degrees from universities, okay? And they live on the coast. They live on the west and the east coast of America, right? They come from cities like Los Angeles, Seattle, New York, Miami, Atlanta, Philadelphia, Boston, and then San Francisco, right? These are coastal elites, okay? All right. So people from those cities and really all along the coast, right? So they live on the coasts. They are degreed. They have one or more college or university degrees. They are wealthy, all right? The wealth comes from two factors. The wealth comes from the factor of them specifically living on the coasts, right? This is an age-old historical model. Basically, on the coast, ships come in. There's a lot of trade and a lot of action, right, that happens on those coasts, and people become very wealthy being close to shipments, right? And then in addition to that, another reason why people are generally wealthy on the coast is people love water, right? Lakeside view, ocean view, river view, that is a thing. Field view is not a thing, right? We'll be talking about the Heartland in a minute, right? But, and so it's not a coincidence that the coastal elites are wealthy, right? They're wealthy because generally wealthy people choose to live near the water, and also just being near the water offers more opportunities for wealth, okay? All right, rather than being landlocked. All right, so we know they live on the coast, they're degreed, they're wealthy. The last is they're left of center. In America, by the way, both of these terms are fully American terms. These don't apply anywhere else, okay? But the coastal elites are absolutely left of center. That's not even debatable. Please debate me in the comments, but I don't think anybody really is wondering what are the coastal elites. Are they left or right? They're definitely left of center. All right. Now, what is the Heartland Stalwart? Okay. What are the three attributes that make up the Heartland Stalwart? Okay. Well, the first is, so the Heartland Stalwarts are people who live in the heartland of America. Now, the purest heartland of America is, amber waves of grain right in the middle of the country, right? But the reality is today, in my opinion, the heartland of America is everywhere that is not the coasts, right? And I really think it's an unusual thing to realize, but I think that's absolutely correct. Is the heartland of America is really now everywhere but the coasts, and so when we're talking about Heartland Stalwarts, we're talking about everybody who doesn't live on the east or west coast of the United States of America. Okay, all right. Now, stalwart, what does that mean, right? So stalwart, coastal elites means you're degreed, you're wealthy, you're elite, right? Well, stalwart comes from the other attributes. So let's talk about the other attributes of the Heartland Stalwarts. Okay, so first, the key aspect of a Heartland Stalwart is their relationship to labor. Heartland Stalwarts have an unabashed goodwill toward labor. okay? Actually doing physical labor, building something, not knowledge work, the exact opposite of knowledge work, actually doing physical labor. So Heartland Stalwarts have a large amount of goodwill. I'll give you an example, okay? Coastal Elite says, "Child, what would you like to be when you grow up?" Right? And the and the child says, "Well, I'd like to be a jackhammer." Right? "I would like to be that person that uses a jackhammer and breaks up the street." Right? Like, so basically, Coastal Elite hears this. Their response back at the macro level is going to be, "Oh, listen, child, jackhammers are great. Maybe you could design a jackhammer, or maybe you could be a manager for a team of people who do jackhammers. That would be wonderful," right? Like, so that would be a Coastal Elite's response to their child's announcement that they want to be a jackhammer, right? Like, whereas the same question and same answer from a Heartland stalwart would be, "That's a noble job. Yeah, jackhammer. Good choice, child." Right? That's the difference, right? Heartland Stalwarts have a large amount of unabashed, unmitigated goodwill toward labor, right? Whereas Coastal Elites really don't. They're either ignorant of it, or they are permissive or tolerant of it, or at the worst, they might even look their nose down at labor, right? There's a great line in the Fight Club says, "People who work sitting down makes more than people who work standing up." And that, boy, I will tell you right now, that is a very true statement. I love that movie for a reason, right? It's got a lot of truth and wisdom in it, right? So that is absolutely key to the Heartland Stalwart. They have goodwill toward labor. Okay, all right. What else? So basically, you do have the labor. Oh, and they are absolutely right of center, right? So a Heartland Stalwart is right of center. So for Coastal Elites, and here's the other one. They are middle class. At the macro level, they are middle class. Okay? All right, so that's your stalwart. Goodwill toward labor, middle class, right of center. Okay? Now, it is my opinion that this is a desperately needed term in politics today, the Heartland Stalwart, right? We need to start talking about these people, and here's the reason why, okay? Each one of these groups is, without a doubt, impacting American politics, okay? So how are the Coastal Elites impacting American politics? Well, through known ephemeral power, all right? So basically, let's talk about ephemeral power. So actually, those are three separate items, right? Known, ephemeral, and power. They're not directly related. All right, so let's talk about ephemeralness. So the things that Coastal Elites believe, they believe them ephemerally. They believe them passionately for a short period of time, and then they move on to the next thing. The things they value, the things they protect, the things that are super important to them today, probably might not have even existed 100 years ago, right? Certainly might not have been the focus for Coastal Elites 100 years ago, right? And 100 years from now, I'm not sure the Coastal Elites will even remember what they valued now 100 years from now. That's not the case with Heartland Stalwarts, right? With Heartland Stalwarts. The things they value today, they valued 100 years ago, and it's quite likely they're going to value them 100 years from now, right? They are not ephemeral, right? But the passions and what the Coastal Elites are passionate about, what they like, what they support, it is all ephemeral, right? It is here now, gone tomorrow, right? That is absolutely not the case with Heartland Stalwarts. They have many of the same values today as they did 100 years ago. And I will say, I think a lot of those values will be the same 100 years from now, right? That's one of the reasons why we call them stalwarts, right? They don't just flit around, right? Like Coastal Elites, right? So you have this ephemeral power, okay? Power. Where do Coastal Elites get power, right? They have a ton of power. A ton of power. They get power. Coastal Elites have power because of two elements. Money, right? We already talked about money. They're wealthy, right? And then, in addition to that, the media. The Venn diagram between the coastal elites and the media is like, if you take someone in the media, the odds that they are a coastal elite rather than a heartland stalwart is like 95%, right? Like, it is extremely high. Powerful media, media that has far reach, it's almost all coastal elites, okay? Virtually none of it is heartland stalwarts, okay? Now, here's the other thing about here's the other thing about coastal elites. They are known, right? Oh my gosh, are they known? One, there's almost every show on television really is default coastal elites. Just talking about coastal elites it's coastal elites talking about coastal elites, right? It, like, television, movies, it's almost all coastal elites. Almost all coastal elites, right? And again, that connects to media, right? But the other thing is, coastal elites are known. There's tons of books written by coastal elites. They are not a secret, right? They don't keep them, like, they use social media like crazy. Most coastal elites are on Twitter and a million other Instagram, blah, 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 right? Coastal elites are 100% known. There's no secrets about coastal elites. There's articles that break down the most minuscule aspects of being a coastal elite in the New York Times and in the New Yorker and in, every major media outlet covers the coastal elites ad nauseum, okay? This is so that is your coastal elites. They're known. They have power, right? Their passions, their supports, what they like is very ephemeral, okay? All right, let's talk about stalwarts, right? They are very different, right? So you have this ephemeral power versus root numbers. So three attributes for them. Root, number, unknown, all right? So one, let's talk about numbers. There are way more Heartland stalwarts by the number of citizens than there are coastal elites. Far more. Especially when it comes to voting. Actually, let me say this specifically. There are far more Heartland stalwarts who vote than coastal elites who vote. Period. So if you take all the Heartland stalwarts and you take all the coastal elites, right, those numbers aren't going to match up. Without a doubt, the number is higher that there are Heartland stalwarts. And guess what? That number is only increasing. The difference is only increasing. And here's why, okay? Heartland stalwarts have kids. Like, Jack and Diane is a song for a reason, right? That song is about Heartland stalwart people, right? John Cougar Mellencamp, like the middle of the country. And Heartland stalwarts, they love kids, they have kids, period, right? Coastal elites, they have to decide if they want to have kids, and there is a huge growing opinion among the coastal elites that there's a debate on whether you should even have children because of climate change. That debate does not exist anywhere within the Heartland stalwart, right? There's nobody debating within the Heartland stalwart. There was a hurricane. Should we have children? No, right? But there are definitely coastal elites who are like, the polar bears are getting warm. We probably shouldn't bring a child into this world, okay? So not only are there more Heartland stalwarts today, but there are going to be more tomorrow because they have kids like crazy, right? It's valued. They value children, right? Whereas coastal elites, and again, this is all at the macro level, right? There are certainly exceptions to this in the coastal elite, and there are certainly exceptions within the Heartland stalwart. You could find some dinks, some dual income, no kids, I don't think that's pejorative. I hope not. If it is, I apologize. But you could definitely find some people, a couple who has no kids among the Heartland stalwarts, and you'll probably find some coastal elites who absolutely love children. But at the macro level, Heartland stalwarts love kids, and at the macro level, coastal elites are like, I don't know, is that a good idea? Maybe later, I don't know. They're not the same, right? And so the coastal elites, again, at the macro level, there's probably not going to be a ton more of them made, right? Like, because increasingly, and the trend is only deepening, right? There's a lot of traction being gained behind this idea that, guess what the carbon footprint on no kids is? 0, right? Guess what the carbon footprint on a child is? A whole lot, like a ton of carbon, right? Like, kids definitely use a lot of carbon, right? So it's a thing, right? So root numbers. So the numbers are, there are way more Heartland stalwarts than there are coastal elites, right? Roots. We already covered this one, actually. The things that Heartland stalwarts like, support, and are passionate about, they are deep, thick roots. You can't, there's a stump that you're going to need power tools to get out, right? Like the things that, they are not ephemeral. The things that Heartland stalwarts believe, they believe them to their bone marrow, right? And they don't change. These things do not change, right? They were Heartland stalwart, but the things they like, the things they support, the things they're passionate about, they were the same thing 100 years ago. They'll be the same thing 100 years from now, okay? That's roots, right? They're not ephemeral at all. And guess what? Heartland stalwarts are very much unknown. They are not covered in movies. They are not covered in television shows. You want to see what's going on with how Heartland stalwarts are covered right now? There's a show called Bless This Mess. I've been watching it. I very much enjoy it. But it's literally about New Yorkers going into the Heartland to farm, right? And it's to the coastal elites, it's literally funny. Like the idea of living in the Heartland is literally a joke, right? So basically the media almost never ever covers the Heartland stalwarts. And I will say this right now. The coastal elite are massively ignorant of the Heartland stalwarts. They have no idea. You want proof? The Heartland stalwarts absolutely elected Donald Trump. And it was a right hook, right, to the coastal elite. They never saw it coming. Never, right? It just, it was a right hook. The coastal elites had no idea who the Heartland stalwarts were, what they were about, why they were important, what they believe, right? What their culture is like. You ain't gonna find any articles in at the macro level. You're not gonna and actually you will find some articles in the New Yorker and in the New York Times about Heartland stalwarts, and it's literally these coastal elites going there for a week and looking at straw, right? There's just absolutely massive ignorance about Heartland stalwarts from coastal elites. It's not the other way around. I think Heartland stalwarts know exactly what coastal elites are because the coastal elites are constantly telling them, literally through every single media outlet that exists, because generally coastal elites make media. Heartland stalwarts don't, right? Georgia is a coastal state, basically, and that's one of the places where we do a lot of media. Los Angeles, actually California, that's a coastal state, right? There's a show called Portlandia, basically there's no mystery about what the coastal elites are. They are a fully known element, right? But the Heartland stalwarts, they're an enigmatic, inscrutable mystery, right? And that is the power. And so that is one area where, and so basically, so when it comes to an election, right, it is my opinion that the winner of the 2020 election, right, will be the 2020, I think both the primary and the general, right? There's a possibility that you could remain completely ignorant of the Heartland stalwarts and win the primary, but but if that happens, it's a guaranteed lock loss. It is guaranteed lock loss for the Democrats. If the Democrats bring forward some person who doesn't understand Heartland stalwarts and has no ability to win Heartland stalwart votes, they're done. That's it. That's all she wrote, right? I am convinced that the 2020 presidential election will be won by the Democrat who has the strongest ability to win Heartland stalwart votes. Absolutely, without a doubt. Right? Now, I think that's Andrew Yang. For a whole lot of reasons. But the reality is, I think it will be impossible. It will be absolutely impossible to beat Donald Trump without understanding every single thing I just said about the Heartland stalwarts. They are the key to this election. And Hillary Clinton's, not ignorance, she was very aware of Heartland stalwarts. I feel that she felt she did not need them. And I think that's why she lost. And the reality is, the Democrats better learn right quick. You cannot win an election without the Heartland stalwarts. You cannot. Right? Now, you don't need to get all of them. I think you only need about 20% of them, maybe a third. Right? Maybe you could even do it with 10 or 15. But you have got to make yourself appealing to the Heartland stalwart, and whatever Democrat doesn't, they will absolutely lose. That's my opinion. What's your opinion? Let me know in the comments below. Please consider liking and subscribing, and have a wonderful millennium.